Hello, welcome to What is Truth with Dylan. Today, instead of reading John chapter 2, what we're going to do right now is tackle a topic and look at the Bible, and I'm going to read a few verses to you that I think can be relevant to the topic. There's a whole bunch of verses, but I just picked a few that I think were the ones I wanted to go with, and the topic is biblical dating. So, without me even saying anything else, I'm going to go ahead and look up the verses. Haha, I put them on my phone so that way I could remember all of them. Okay. Alrighty, here we are. Aha, the first one is 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 14 to 17, I think. Even though the thing I was looking at kind of was less, but I think I should read more to show the intensity of this. And I chose this verse because I think this is kind of where you have to start with when you're thinking about dating someone. Believer. My fellow Christian believers. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness, and what communion hath light with darkness, and what accord hath Christ with Belial, or what part hath he that believeth with an infidel, and what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For ye are the temple of the living God. As God hath said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you. Now, that's the very first one. Now I'm going to talk about that. That's speaking of, the first things first. If you're a Christian, the Bible tells you right there, don't try to be dating unbelievers. It's just not a smart decision. You have to, the Bible forbids us to be with the unbeliever in a dating relationship because we're not supposed to marry them either. So, because we're not supposed to marry an unbeliever, therefore, don't even start dating them because, yes, dating is essentially getting to know someone and kind of building that relationship and eventually kind of leading to marriage down the road. But still, as far as if this is an unbeliever, it's better to stay friends and try to tell them about the gospel. And if they become a believer, truly become a believer, then you can start dating. But otherwise, I would say it's unwise to even start dating if the person is a non-believer. That's my opinion. There's been some lucky cases where believers have married unbelievers, and then the unbeliever ended up getting saved. But that was great mercy of God. It doesn't always happen that way, so it's better to follow the biblical model to not marry an unbeliever. So I would say not even to date an unbeliever. So that is my advice in that regard. So now let's go to the next verse, which is also in Corinthians, but instead of 2 Corinthians, now we are looking at 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians. Come on, flip the page. Come on. Alright, 13 verses 4 through 7. Alright. Charity suffereth long, and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity valueth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Charity never faileth. Okay, I'm reading verse 8 now. But whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. Okay, I guess I didn't really need to read verse 8. But then again, the beginning of it is kind of nice. But it's speaking of the word there, charity. But I don't know what I was looking at, but when I was looking up verses, the word that whatever translation it was that I looked up, you actually had the word love. But then again, charity, the idea of being kind. And honestly, I think that kind of idea is very important for a relationship. When you are talking about really loving someone and really being kind, true charity, true kindness, true love, it is willing to put up with a lot, with difficulties. It's kind. It's not prideful. It doesn't easily get angry. It doesn't want evil of the other person. It doesn't rejoice when evil happens, but it rejoices in good things. It rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, the difficulties. So, and that's very important to already, I think, establish while you're dating is do you have that kind of love for this other person? Now, obviously, I'm not saying that like right from the get-go you need to have like this awesome kind of love, because when you're starting out, at least for me, there was a bit of uncertainty, and so I was, I kind of thought to myself, am I doing the right thing? And then I kind of thought to myself, well, I'm going to trust God with this, and I'm going to, we're going to go forward and see what God does. And as time went on, I mean, at this point, though, that uncertainty has vanished away, and my certainty only grows as time goes on. I mean, it's in my that love in me to my girlfriend is just getting stronger, and my love for her continues to grow. And it just kind of like the verse says, I want her good. I don't want her to fail. I want her to succeed in the things that she does, and I want to support her in the things she likes to do and the things that she's involved in. So anyway, that will finish that verse. So now we want to go to don't worry, only 2 more passages. Okay, 1 Thessalonians 4:3, verses 3 and 5. Alright, I believe that's further in. I could be wrong. Nope, I'm right. Okay, 1 Thessalonians 4, verses 3 to 5. Alright. With all praying also for us, that God would open unto us a door of utterance to speak the mystery of Christ, for which I am also in bonds, that I may what? What? Is that right? Oh, wait a minute. No. Well, hold on. Okay, I don't know why I must have maybe put that in incorrectly, because that doesn't really have anything to do with what I'm saying. Okay, yeah, that's I don't know what in the world. I must have yeah, that must. I don't know what I did wrong there. Did I mean something? It was 2 Thessalonians. That's what I did. I forgot to put second. Okay. Now we're on track. Sorry everyone. Verse 4, 3 to 5. For this is the will of God, even your sanctification, that ye should abstain from fornication, that every one of you should know how to possess his vessel in sanctification and honor, not in the lust of. Okay, I can't pronounce this word, but I'm going to try. I hope you have your Bible with you so you can see what word I'm looking at. And yes, that verse is 2 Thessalonians chapter 4, and this is verse 5. Not in the lust of concupiscence. Yeah, I just butchered that word. I am so sorry, folks. Even as the Gentiles which know not God. And of course, we have from this that we are to walk the way God wants us to, in our daily lives, live the Christian life, and not in lust. In other words, there should be no inappropriate sexual contact between the two before marriage. And you're going to have to set boundaries and set how far you're willing to go before you go, because it's hard to know really unless you cross the boundary. Thankfully, I have have not lost my purity, and I don't plan to either. but you're gonna have to be very careful, because if you're like don't go into a room together alone, because the flesh is weak and you don't know if you'll succumb to sexual temptation. And because of things like that, I've seen good Christian people end up having children before they were married. Now, the situation I'm thinking of, the two are actually about to get married. They love each other. They just came together a little too early. But which I'm happy they took such good responsibility to it. But at the same time, that's not the way it's supposed to be. The way it's supposed to be is not before marriage. And that's the model that the Bible gives for us. A wise thing to do is kind of set up boundaries. Like, for me, a good rule is never to be in a room alone. Don't close the door, lock the door, anything like that by yourself. Make sure that there's open doors or someone else, like, at least somewhere, or I don't know. Just in a way that it just takes away that temptation to take that step that leads you too far. And that will be all for that particular verse. And I will now go on to guess what? Old Testament time. Yeah. Alright. Oh wait, I went too far. Yep. Proverbs 18:22. Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favor of the Lord. Now, I know that's not with dating, but I just wanted to read that because there was such confusion, I think, in the medieval church, and even to an extent in the early church, about marriage, because people forbidding the clergy to get married and thinking that it was more holy to not be married. But honestly, I don't think the Bible teaches that at all. And I mean, whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favor with the Lord. So you're actually obtaining favor with the Lord when you actually have a spouse. So with dating, a big thing is you're trying to figure out if you want to end up marrying this person. I mean, you're learning about them, you're finding out about the person, and learning about who they are. And of course, what I've found in a relationship is that you want to build each other up and help each other grow spiritually. Like, one thing that me and my girlfriend have started doing, we've only done it one time, but I hope to do it more, is a Bible study together. We're actually reading through Ephesians. We read chapter 1. Next time we'll have to read chapter 2. And that's just one of the ways that I find it useful to help build each other in the Lord, to read through the chapter, then discuss it, talk about what you think about it. Also, praying together is also, I think, important. Now, I haven't really, me and my girlfriend haven't really prayed together necessarily, but before we've eaten, I've, prayed aloud, of course, but that's actually something I probably would like to start doing, is probably maybe praying with her more, just because I think that's another great way to kind of build that spiritual bond that needs to be, especially since I would say that, me and her are in a serious relationship at this point. So, I mean, let me think. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over my words, but I'm trying to think of the best way to say it, but definitely a relationship, the best biblical relationship puts God at the center. When you have God at the center of things, that is the wisest way to do things, and that'll help everything else. And that's something that I've tried to do from day one with the relationship that I'm in, and honestly, it is paid off, and it has reaped a lot of blessing, I think, because of that. Because a mistake that I made with my last past relationship when I was like 13, and I turned 14 a little bit toward the end. It was only like 2-3 months time, but I think what I did was I made this other girl like an idol, something that I was like putting my happiness in that. And honestly, I wasn't putting God at the center. for one thing, I don't think God wanted, I know for a fact God did not want me to be with her anyway, and two, you had that, and I was not putting myself in, like I said, I was making her an idol. And I shouldn't be doing that at all. Well, you shouldn't be doing that with anything, and it's so easy to do that with material things. And of course, there was one day she broke up with me. To this day, I don't know the reason, but I don't care anymore. But God took her out of my life in that way. Not to say that we didn't talk at all after that, but God got rid of that relationship because it wasn't good. I didn't put God at the center of that. For me, it was all about her. I didn't think about, how does God want me to be in this relationship? How can I glorify God in this? How can I help her grow spiritually? I wasn't thinking like that. But with this relationship, the way my mind is how can I help her grow spiritually? How can we glorify God together and become more spiritual together? And I've also paid very good attention to what she thinks of God. And of course, she's very, very good Christian woman, loves the Lord, faithful in going to church, and she's active in outreach a lot, and I just love it. I love it so much, and that's very important. So ultimately, keep God at the central focus of the relationship, and God's going to lead you in the right way. And pray about whether He wants you to remain together or not, and let Him really kind of guide you, because believers, there is ways that God speaks to us that at times it's really hard to explain, but God has ways of letting you know if He wants you to remain in a relationship or not. So just pray, listen, and obey. Obey God's command, whichever way He leads you to go, and trust His judgment, because God knows best. We don't know what's best for ourselves, but He does. But anyway, that'll do for now, and I hope that this video was helpful when it came to the topic of biblical dating. So thank you, and I hope to see you on the next What is Truth with Dylan.